Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. This time, I watched something a little different, nothing I've covered before. I watched Netflix's new comedy docuseries called History of Swear Words. So, I'm a big fan of swear words. I say them all the time. You guys watch these videos, it's just the way I talk. It's part of my normal way of conversing, my normal way of speaking. I swear a lot. So I'm a big fan of swearing. I'm a big fan of Nicolas Cage. So this this show had all the makings of something that would intrigue me. It's hosted by Nick Cage. It's set up kind of like if you watched MTV in like I think it was like the early 2000s when they had Guy Code and Girl Code, and it would just be like various comedians kind of like talking about something but trying to be funny at the same time. It has that same kind of setup. So each episode, there's 6 20-minute episodes. Each episode focuses on a specific word, and it's opened by Nick Cage. He speaks at various parts throughout the episode and at the end, and then the rest of the episode is filled with comedians giving commentary, trying to be funny, and linguists who have studied these words and are trying to give you information on the background, where these words come from, how they ended up becoming swear words, things like that. So it has a lot of information where you can kind of see like, okay, like for instance, how did the word bitch go from referring to dogs to referring to women? How did the word damn go from being something that was a horrible thing to say because it was tied to religion? And it's like, okay, God damn you to hell. And it's like, oh God, that's like the worst thing you could tell somebody. And now damn is barely considered a curse word at all. So, it gives you some of that background. They brought in Isaiah Whitlock, who, for those of you who may not know, he came to notoriety on The Wire for going shit. So they brought him on in the episode about the word shit, which was cool. And then he stayed on. I think he was in a couple more episodes afterward. That was pretty cool. But all in all, I don't really feel like I can recommend this show. And the reason being is that it's just not really that funny and it's barely informative. Nick Cage is great in the brief moments that we see him in each episode. Nick Cage is actually pretty funny. He's an excellent host, but a lot of the comedians that they brought on there do a type of comedy that I think is very. I don't even want to say lowbrow because I feel like lowbrow is so elitist. Like, oh, that's so lowbrow. But so you can have vulgar comedy, right? Someone who curses a lot, who says a lot of explicit things, maybe talks a lot about sex in very explicit terms or whatever, and it could still be funny. This seemed to be just comedians who think that saying the more curse words you say, the funnier you are. And that's like the dumbest level of comedy that there is to me. Like I can't rock with that level of comedy because I feel like if that is your brand, like that's who you feel like you are. Okay, perfect example, Bob Saget. Bob Saget was the father on Full House for the entirety of its run. It aired in the 80s, I believe, early 90s. Very wholesome show. So Bob Saget, and I guess in an attempt to say, hey, look, I'm not Danny Tanner from Full House, I'm Bob Saget. His comedy, his stand-up act is as vulgar as he can possibly make it. And in his little mind, that's funny. That's not funny to me. Like it's not funny to be like, oh, that's Danny Tanner saying fuck. Like that I'm smarter than a fucking idiot, so that doesn't make me laugh. Like you need to give me you need to be more nuanced in your comedy than just curse, 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 curse. It has to actually you have to be saying something, and the vulgarity just needs to be part of the joke or just a tool used to implement it. It can't be the joke itself. And that's what a lot of these comedians on there were like. Like Jim Jeffrey was on there. He was awful. Nikki Glazer was on there. She's awful most of the time. Nikki Glazer's like the woman version of that. Like the more times I talk about my pussy, the funnier this is gonna be. No. The more times I let my audience know that I like the fuck, the funnier this is gonna be. No, no. Painting yourself as a sex symbol is not comedy. I don't think she understands that. But I don't find her to be very funny. She has her moments, but not in this. She didn't. So it's not very funny. It's informative every now and then. Like I liked finding out like how a word went from being a word that meant something completely harmless and has transitioned to becoming something that no one can say anymore without getting a side eye. I like that aspect of it. I like the Nick Cage aspect of it. But at the end of the day, you're looking at 2 hours of just mediocre comedy and a little bit of education, not too much. And then really, who gives a fuck where fuck came from? Like that's one of those things where it's like you have a conversation with somebody or you look on Wikipedia and you're like, oh, okay, so that's where that's from. Cool. You don't need to watch Nikki Glazer tell shitty jokes about her pussy for 20 minutes to find out where fuck came from. You don't. So I can't really recommend the show. It's just not that funny. It's barely interesting, but hey, if you have 2 hours to kill and you're really, really curious, despite the fact that I just said don't watch it, go ahead and watch it. But don't come back and go in my comments and blame me because I told you not to watch it. It's not really worth it. Short video this time because that show sucked. Peace.